Ever wanted someone you care about to stop smoking, cut back on drinking, use their phone less, eat healthier, or just live a little bit more purposefully or intentionally? But every time you try to help, they get defensive and tune you out. You're not alone. Most of us have been there, watching someone we love feel stuck while we feel helpless. The truth? Pressure rarely works. But empathy, intentional empathy, that changes everything. Hi, I'm Keith Lisenbee, licensed therapist and CEO of Atlas Behavioral Health Consulting. In today's episode of Intentional Empathy, we're talking about how to support someone who's navigating a habit change, or maybe not even thinking about it yet. We'll use the stages of change model from motivational interviewing and practical science-based tools from our intentional empathy framework to help you meet people where they are and help them move forward without pushing. And that is our episode. Before we begin, though, you probably noticed I'm in an on-location site in Florida. Well, you didn't know I was in Florida until I just told you, but I'm on location today. I'll be heading home after this. But as you were preparing to watch deeper into this video, please, hit a like button, subscribe to this channel, share this video with someone who might benefit from all the information that is here. And thank you for doing so. It means a lot to me and a lot to us. So let's jump right into it. There are 5, but maybe 6 stages to change according to motivational interviewing, which is an evidence-based practice that has been used in behavioral health, addiction treatment, and health settings for the last 50 years. And it still is applicable today. There are 5 key stages to change because change is really, really difficult. It causes a lot of uncertainty. It causes the brain to predict errors, which causes more worry, anxiety, fear, which stops people from changing in the first place, or even thinking about it, or even moving into a phase where they consider it or take any action. So you've heard this a lot, though. Change is scary, and it is. It presents uncertainty, unpredictability that our brains hate dealing with, and it holds people back. Another caveat before we get into the stages of change is the fact that ask yourself this question: can you change someone when they're not ready? Can you cure someone in your life who's not ready to be cured? And can you control someone else in your life that doesn't want to be controlled, which is pretty much everybody? Can you do that? The 3 C's: change someone who's not ready to change, cure someone who's not ready to be cured, control someone who doesn't want to be controlled. I hope for you the answer is no. But guess what? Listen to yourself, though, and listen and go back. How many times have you inadvertently tried to do that with someone you care about, someone you love, when you feel desperate for them to change habits that you know that are unhealthy? How many times have we tried? But I guarantee you, a lot of those times, vast majority of those times, it doesn't work. And we lose energy, time, space, and even the relationship in the process. And that is why pressure doesn't work. Empathy, intentional empathy, and walking through these stages with your loved one or just someone in your life that you care about gives you the better chance at success. So let's go over the 5 and the mysterious number 6 stages of change. The first stage is pre-contemplation, and that is someone who is in denial. You've all seen that person who's like, I don't have a problem. You have a problem. It's not a problem. That's stage 1, pre-contemplation. They're not even thinking there's an issue or a reason to change at this time. Stage 2 is contemplation. And that is in their head, maybe it is a problem. Maybe there is a problem, but I'm not sure. They're starting to think maybe, kind of, sort of, there's an issue. There's a problem I need to address That is contemplation. That leads to the third stage, which is called preparation. And that is when the person decides they're going to make a change. But, and a big but here, they don't know how. They haven't figured it out yet, but they're ready to make some preparatory steps and movement in order to start the process. But they don't know what it is yet, but they're preparing to make a change. Stage 4 is the action phase. I am doing it. I am starting the process. Now, we know that stage 4, when someone does take action and make changes, doesn't always work, but we'll get to that. And then step 5 is a maintenance phase. When the person has taken the action that they're going to take, they've made the change they're going to make, and they're maintaining it. Whatever new habits that have been formed, they are now in the process of maintaining and creating those new habits. And so they're in a maintenance phase of change. But there's a 6th step, because it is possible for someone to go all the way to step 3 and then go back all the way to step 4 and go back to 2 or 1. It's very fluid. So stage 6, though, the hidden one in the stages of change, is called relapse, because the reason why it's there is most everybody does. When people are trying to break bad behaviors or bad habits in their life, particularly in addictive behavior or compulsive behavior, whatever it is, the recovery from that is never linear. The change is never linear. It doesn't just go straight up trajectory for most everyone. So in stage 6 is relapse. When someone slips, when someone goes back and engages in unhealthy behaviors again, that's part of the process. That is part of the process of change and recovery, particularly of addictive behaviors or unhealthy behaviors. Is there pretty much always is a slip at some point along the way. And when someone slips, we'll get to that later, but when someone slips in that stage, then they sometimes feel guilt or shame for doing so, and they still need our support at that time, possibly more than ever. So let's talk about how to support someone in each stage using intentional empathy tools. In pre-contemplation, when someone is saying, this isn't a problem, I don't have a problem here with this behavior, what we want to say is we need to recognize the mindset that they're in. And their mindset is defensiveness, unaware, or minimizing the issue. What should we say? How about a label? Sounds like you feel that this works for you right now. This being the problem behavior. Not a big deal. That's a mirroring statement. Because sometimes we'll say, oh, it's not a big deal. We mirror that back. Not a big deal. And then open-ended questions. How or what questions? Discovery question. For example, what do you enjoy about this habit? Is there anything that concerns you? Here's what to avoid, though. You need to stop. This is ruining your life. Judgment statements like that, harsh criticism statements, never, ever work. It just causes them, and science shows us this clearly, for them to dig their heels in even more. So the strategies being used when the mindset is defensiveness in stage 1 is labeling, mirroring, aligned tone of voice, calm, warm, open, and sometimes purposeful silence. Sometimes we need to let the other person think. And that's what purposeful silence is for. Also try statements like, it seems that you've got reasons for keeping it the way it is, which is another label in of itself. And I find that works really, really well. Why does this work, the strategy? Well, you're showing understanding. You're trying to understand and not judge. You're reducing the defensiveness and possibly inviting curiosity. So let's jump to stage 2, contemplation. When someone's saying, I'm torn, I'm thinking about it, I don't know. That's where the big time uncertainty is, big time fear the person's having. Their mindset is they're looking at the pros and cons, but there's still fear, and they're stuck. So what should we say to someone in that space? Seems like you're conflicted. Part of you wants to change, but part of you isn't sure. Maybe a discovery question. What makes you think about changing? What's holding you back? What are the cons of changing? Maybe throw in an affirmation also when someone's in contemplation stage. You've clearly been thinking deeply about this. It takes courage to be so honest. Here's some things to avoid saying. If you care, you do something already. It's obvious. Come on, can't you see it? Again, that's resistance meeting resistance. And when that happens, no change happens. The strategies that are being used here: labeling, affirmations, mirroring statements, and discovery questions. So let's jump to number 3. But before we get to number 3, hold on. Sorry, I'm jumping ahead too much. You might also try this when someone's in contemplation stage. What would need to happen for change to feel doable? Why do these strategies work for someone in the contemplation stage? You're helping them talk themselves into change by listening and not trying to persuade or bully them into changing. All right, now we're going to do the 3. Preparation. I have decided to change. Now they are committed, planning, but they're still quite nervous. So what kind of intentional empathy things can we do when someone's in preparation, when they're beginning to plan? You say, that's a powerful decision. What's your first step? A pivot question. Would you be against the idea of brainstorming some support ideas together? And what's worked for you in the past when you've made a big change? What we want to avoid in this stage is trying to take control of their plan. Again, going back to the 3 C's. You can't change them, can't control them, can't cure them. They don't want to be changed, cured, or controlled. Don't take control of their own plan because they won't follow through. They'll give you a fake counterfeit yes, and that'll be it. The implementation will be almost dead. Okay. Don't second guess their timeline for change. They need to go at their own pace. And that's hard for us to do because we want desperately for the change to happen for them. But it's really important for them to do it at their own time. Another thing you might want to try, another questions that you may want to try is, what are you most excited about? What worries you? Why do these strategies work in the preparation phase? Well, encouragement builds motivation. Collaboration builds trust. So let's jump to stage 4. Now they're taking action. Stage 4 is action. I am making it happen. Their mindset at this point is they're motivated and they're making steps, but they're vulnerable because that nervousness and an uncertainty is still there. Because now they're taking that fateful and faithful first step towards change. And this is where success and struggle often coexist. So what do you say to someone in that phase? Affirmation. Yeah, you've come so far already. That's amazing. What's felt hardest so far? What's helped? Also, a labeling statement might be beneficial here. Sounds like you're proud and also a little exhausted. Now, if they slip, now remember, stage 6 is relapse. If they slip, it's really, really important for us when we're trying to help someone change and they slip up, that we don't add more guilt and shame on top of it because they already feel it already. Remember, they already feel the guilt and shame of slipping already. We do not need to pile on. It makes people feel worse, even though we might have the instinct to do so because we're so concerned and so worried. So just take a step back before saying anything that could end up eliciting more guilt and shame out of them. Just take a step back, take a breath, please. Take care of yourself. Control, cure, change you. Say to them, you sound discouraged. One moment, though, doesn't change or erase everything you've already done. Maybe a pivot question would be against talking about what led up to the slip. Again, reminder, big reminder, avoid saying things like, I know you'd mess up. You were doing so well. What happened? You can also throw in there too, on the positive side to help somebody. And when they've slipped, you say, what can help you bounce back stronger? Now, why do these intentional empathy strategies work in this stage as well as the stage 6 of relapse and slipping? Encouragement is fuel. Reframing slips as learning experience keeps momentum up. Now let's go to the last stage. And let's say we move beyond relapse and action. Now we're in stage 5, we're called maintenance. And this is in their world, their mindset here is that things are stabilizing. They're building a life that supports the change. So what do you say in this stage? An affirmation possibly would be helpful, or open reflection, like a label, or a discovery question. Examples would be, you've built something strong and steady. It's a great affirmation. Or kind of a discovery question, how do you stay on track these days? Or another discovery question, what can I do to keep supporting you and this process? What you want to avoid is saying, you good now? You good? You're good, right? Right? Or treating relapse, as I said before, as a failure. You know, saying things like when they're in the maintenance phase, oh, it'd be really bad if you slipped up now. It'd be really horrible. Avoid saying that. Maybe another good question to try. Also, a little bonus question for stage 5. Maintenance is what keeps you grounded in this change? What helps keeping you grounded? These are all ways, these discovery questions are meant to entice the other person to let us know what we can actually do to support, to help them change. Not make them change, but help them to change. And that's by building collaboration, using intentional empathy to build that collaboration, and then moving forward. Those are the 6 changes. Those are the intentional empathy strategies in those changes. So you're ready for a weekly challenge for this week? Yes. This week, think of someone in your life trying to make a change, or someone who might need to. What stages do you think they're in? That's an important thing to figure out. Are they in pre-contemplation? Are they in contemplation? Stage 2. Are they in 3? Preparation. Or 4? Action. Or 5? Maintenance. Or have they just recently slipped? If they're in pre-contemplation, the IE strategies use mirroring or labeling to reflect their current view. This is called also in motivational interviewing, rolling with resistance. Roll with resistance. When you see resistance, roll with it. Don't fight it. If you fight it, they're going to dig their heels in. Roll with it by using mirroring and labeling in order to reflect their current view. Contemplation, the IE strategy, remember, is ask open and what and how discovery questions about how they feel and what their hopes are. Ask them about pros and cons to changing. At stage 3, preparation, affirm their decision and invite collaboration. When they're in stage 4, action, acknowledge effort, reflect the struggle, celebrate the wins. And in 5, maintenance, recognize their growth and ask how they're sustaining it. Then do it. Try it in a real moment. And then afterwards, reflect on what you've done. Did they open up more? Did you feel more grounded yourself? Did you feel more at ease and less anxious yourself? Were they more open and less anxious and feeling uncertain themselves? Did you feel more connected? Did they? Remember, empathy is not about fixing. It's about walking beside someone as they figure it out for themselves. Not us trying to control them and cure them, which generally never works. Remember, change is hard, but being understood makes it easier. Being heard makes it easier. With the right mix of empathy, timing, and intention, you can be the reason someone takes a step forward or gets back up after they slip or simply feels a little bit more hopeful today. Intentional empathy isn't soft, it's powerful. And when you feel heard, they grow. When they feel heard, they will grow. When they don't, they're digging their heels in. Thank you all for being here. If this helped, like, subscribe, and share with someone who could use a boost. You never know when your compassion might be the turning point for someone else. See you next time.